Welcome to deck analysis and testing. This time we are looking at Fusion Clock Up. Some people call this deck Cybers, like how they call Yubelnir's Elementary Heroes. I like to call it Fusion Clock Up because it makes it clearer that the Cybers deck is based around the skill that is the Fusion Clock Up. This skill does a lot of things. It makes this deck really consistent by searching Clock Wyvern. It makes Clock Wyvern a one-card combo. It ends on a turn 1 board of Borreload Furious Dragon. And also on turn 2, you can make a number of fusion monsters using Cynet Fusion that you can also search with the skill. And also summon Decode Talker from a graveyard, which you also get from your skill. So let's have a look at the cards. First we have Degrade Buster. This is a high level Cybers monster that we can special summon from our hand. It has a quick effect to banish an opponent's monster that has a higher attack than discard, but it returns to the field during the end phase. Next is a Link Slayer. It's another free summon that the deck has. If you control no monsters, you can special summon discard from your hand. Also, once per turn, you can discard up to 2 cards and then target the same amount of spell traps on the field and destroy them. This is a really good back row removal. Next is the main monster of the entire deck, Clock Wyvern. This card, when it is normal special summoned, you can special summon a clock token on the field, but half this card's attack. You can also convert the token into an effect monster using the skill that we will talk about later, and yeah, if you have Clock Wyvern in your hand, you can basically do your entire combo using that card alone. Next is Backup Secretary. This card can be special summoned from your hand if you control another Cybers type monster. It's a free summon. Next is Father, which we will send from our deck using Fiend Griefing. And we have Swap Cleric, which is a monster that when it's used as link material, you can reduce your link monster's attack to draw a free card. And this card is another normal summon option if you don't have Clock Wyvern in your hand. And during your next turn, oftentimes you will be normal summoning your Swap Cleric and then drawing a free card and hopefully have another extender, and you can do a little combo that involves one of our Link 2 monsters, what we will go over. For our spells, we're playing 2 Cynet Fusion. It's searchable with our skill as well as one of our links. And 3 copies of One-Time Passcode. This is another extender, but it has a good thing about it that it gives you a normal monster. Because if your Clock Wyvern gets negated by something like an Infect Veiler, you can still continue your combo by using One-Time Passcode to get yourself a normal monster, which is really important for us to use with the skill. For the traps, we are playing free Fiend Griefing and free Cloak and Dagger as free-to-play staples. You could play more expensive options, which I will be going over. And for the extra deck, we're playing 1 Borreload Furious Dragon. Playmaker did summon this card in the last battle in the anime, so that's why the skill lets him make this card, even though it's technically not his card. Borreload Furious Dragon will be our main turn 1 play. It has a quick effect to destroy 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. It's a really good disruption, and also you can banish this card from your graveyard to summon back the Decode Talker that you get from your skill. Next is Cybers Clock Dragon. This card can be fusion summoned using a Clock Wyvern specifically, plus a Link monster, which you will be able to use from your graveyard if you use your Cynet Fusion. And it has an effect when it's fusion summoned to send cards from the top of your deck to the graveyard equal to the link rating of the link monster that is used for this fusion summon, and then this card gains a 1000 attack for each card sent, and also other monsters cannot attack this turn. And also, while this card is on your field, your other monsters cannot be targeted for attacks or effects. And if this fusion summon card is sent to your graveyard by opponent's card effect, you could add any spell from your deck to your hand, which you'll probably not be activating because by the time you make this card, you're probably already winning. Next is 2 copies of the Diplexer Chimera. This is your main other fusion target because Cybers Clock Dragon is admittedly not very easy to summon. You need a Clock Wyvern specifically, so usually you will be making Diplexer turn 2. It only needs 2 Cybers monsters, which is really nice. It has an effect that it's nice, I guess, but you don't usually activate it. It lets you tribute another Cybers monster, and your opponent cannot activate spell traps during your battle phase. It's kind of like an Ancient Goo Golem, but you need a tribute, so it's not useful a lot of the times. it mainly just used as a free summon that you can make using your fusion, and it has 2000 attack, which is nice. And also, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Silent Fusion plus a Cyberus monster from a graveyard and add them back to your hand. This lets you basically fusion summon every single turn. Even if it gets sent to the graveyard, you can grab back your fusion, and next turn you can fusion summon another Chimera again. For the links, we're playing a 1 Clock Spartoy. This is the link tree that I was talking about that searches Silent Fusion, because when this card is a link summon, you can add Silent Fusion from a deck to your hand, and when a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you can revive a level 4 or lower Cyberus from your graveyard, and then it locks you into fusion monsters. This basically lets you make 2 fusion monsters in a single turn, assuming that you already have Silent Fusion in your hand using your skill. You can add the second copy with your Clock Spartoy, and then use the graveyard effect of Borreload Furious Dragon to get back a Decode Talker to a link point, and then it will trigger Spartoy's effect to special summon Clock Wyvern from a graveyard, and then you can use both of your fusion spells to make 2 fusion monsters. That's the idea of this card. Next is Proxy F Magician. This card is part of your turn 1 setup. You will use 2 effect monsters to make it, and then during your main phase you can just fusion summon using stuff from your field as a fusion material. And also it has an additional effect when a fusion monster is fusion summoned to a zone this card points to. You can special summon a monster with 1000 or less attack from your hand, but you usually don't use this effect because usually you will be using itself as part of the material as well. Next is Talkback Lancer. This is our link 1. It leads a level 2 or lower Cyberus type monster, and it has an effect to tribute another Cyberus type monster and then revive a Code Talker monster in your graveyard. We are not playing any other Code Talker monsters in our deck, but we will have access to Decode Talker with our skill, which we will be able to summon using our copy of Talkback Lancer. Finally, we have Clock Lizard. This is our plan B, basically. It's a follow-up. It needs 2 Cyberus monsters to link summon, and you can tribute this card, return a fusion monster from graveyard back to the extra deck, and then fusion summon that fusion monster by banishing the materials from your graveyard. And also, if this card is banished from a graveyard, you can make special summon the monsters your opponent controls, lose 400 attack for each Cyberus monster in your graveyard. This can potentially reduce a whole lot of attack if you have a whole bunch of Cyberus monsters in your graveyard. And it usually just gives you a backup plan if your fusion gets destroyed. For our skill, let's talk about Fusion Clock Up. This skill makes entire deck work. It has 3 effects, and the first one lets you return any Cyberus monster or a Cynet Fusion from your hand back to the deck, and then add a Clock Wyvern plus a Cynet Fusion from your deck to your hand. So even if you don't draw Clock Wyvern, you can always get it using your skill. Next effect is you can change 1 normal monster in your main monster zone to Stack Reviver. Stack Reviver is a effect monster that, if it's used as material for a link summon, you can revive a level 4 or lower Cyberus type monster in your graveyard and then negate its effects, I think. No, it doesn't negate, anyway. This skill does work with tokens, which is how it's intended. You can use Clock Wyvern's effect to give yourself a token, and that token will be treated as a normal monster, which you can use your skill on to make it Stack Reviver, and then link the birth away to make it link 2, and then use Stack Reviver's effect to bring back Clock Wyvern, and yeah. The third effect is to change the type and attribute of 2 monsters on your field to Dragon and Dark attribute, and this skill basically lets you use your Cyberus monsters as material to make a Borreload Furious Dragon, because otherwise you can't make it using 2 Dark and Dragon type monsters if you're not playing Dragon monsters. But the skill changes your types to Dark and Dragon, which makes you make Borreload Furious turn 1, which is really good. And also it sends Decode Talker to your graveyard, and the Decode Talker that the skill sends is revivable using revive effects, because usually if you have extra deck monsters in your graveyard, it has these kind of weird restrictions where you can't special summon it if it's not summoned properly from the extra deck, but the skill just completely avoids that for some reason. You can just revive Decode Talker for free, because that's how it works, I guess. So yeah, let's have a look at the expensive version. As you can probably tell, we are playing more copies of Linkslayer because this card is obviously very good. It is only obtainable from the structure deck, so we can't really play more than one in the free-to-play version, but for the expensive version we will definitely be trying to open with Linkslayer as often as possible because it's both a free summon and a way to clear your opponent's back row, which is really useful. We're also playing more copies of Degrade Buster because this is an additional interruption if we have it in our opening hand. It has a quick effect which is really useful if you have it on your field turn 1. And we're also playing 3 copies of Clock Wyvern because, yeah, this deck is based around Clock Wyvern. And we're playing much better staples, obviously. We're playing Book of Moon, Crackdown, because this is a Link deck, so it's always nice to steal your opponent's stuff and use them as your own Link material. And we're playing 1 Tretch, because we have 1 space left and we have a limit 1 slot, so why not? For the extra, it's basically the same, but we're also playing Rasterliger. This card is a really good going second option. You could make it really easily using the Decode Shocker that you summon using Warlord Furious Dragon plus any other monster. It will give you a pretty big Rasterliger, and Rasterliger also has an effect to tribute monsters to pop cards of the field, which is great removal. So yeah, that's basically the deck. I think this deck is actually not bad. It's not bad, definitely, especially in the expensive version where you can play a whole bunch of good staples. I just think that there are better decks that achieve similar things to this deck and don't lose to a Veiler, because if your opponent Veilers your Clock Wyvern, you kinda can't really do your combo. There are other decks like Yubel Neos that is also based around a 1-card combo, which doesn't lose to Evict Veiler, and also it grabs follow-up. This deck does grab follow-up in the form of Signet Fusion, but Signet Fusion alone won't do the trick. You need a Signet Fusion plus another monster. So yeah, this deck does have a lot of space for back row, which is always nice for skill-based decks like these, but I feel like if you're gonna invest in a deck that relies on a skill plus a whole bunch of back row, there are definitely better decks than this, like BLS or Yubel Neos. And even like Live Twin, even though it doesn't rely on a skill, it does use a 1-card combo plus a whole bunch of traps. And I still think it's probably a better option than playing Cybers. So yeah, let's have a look at the replays. Our first thing is against Altergeist, and we are going first. Our going first plan is pretty simple. As long as we have a Cybers monster in our hand, we can do the entire combo. We're going to return the Swap Cleric to add a Clock Wyvern plus a Signet Fusion that we will not use this turn. We're going to normal summon our Clock Wyvern, giving us a token using the second effect of a skill to turn it into a effect monster. So we can use the 2 effect monsters to make Proxy F Magician. And then we can activate the effect of Stack Reviver, summoning back the Clock Wyvern, using the third effect of a skill, turning them both to Dark Dragons, and then giving us a Decode Shocker in the graveyard, and then using Proxy F Magician's on-field effect to fusion summon using the monsters on our field to make a Warlord Furious Dragon, and then we're going to set 2 and pass. Our opponent is going to normal summon Altergeist Marionetta and then set 2 and pass. During our turn, we're gonna use 1-time passcode to give ourselves a token. So we have a monster on our field to use for our Signet Fusion. We're gonna use that, plus a link in our graveyard to make Diplexer Chimera. And then we're gonna switch to attack and then start attacking. We're gonna attack, and our opponent will activate Compulse. We're gonna chain our Furious. He can chain Karma Cut, which is unfortunate, because if it's Karma Cut, if it's banished, we can't really use the effect to add back the Signet Fusion, which really sucks. Our opponent will activate Manifestation, but we have Cloak and we know what he's summoning, so we can declare Marionetta, which banishes it. He can still add back the Manifestation to his hand, but he doesn't actually have any Altergeist other than the one that he just sent. So he's going to make a Link 1 to have a Altergeist in his graveyard for him to summon later. We can attack over his monster using a backup secretary. We will not use the Warlord Furious Dragon's effect yet, because we're saving it for later, for a combo that you will be able to see a bit later. He is going to bounce back our Cloak and Dagger, because we declared a Multi-Faker, and he doesn't really want us to banish his Multi-Faker. I don't think he actually has access to Multi-Faker, but whatever. He's going to normal summon a Meluseek. We will activate IDP at home to both return the Altergeist from his graveyard back to the deck and banish his Meluseek so he can't search anything. Okay, so now we have 2 Cybers. We can make Clock Spartoid. That's the combo that I have been saving Borreload Furious Dragon 4. We're gonna make the Clock Spartoid, add a Cyanide Fusion to our hand, and then we're gonna summon a Decode Talker into a link point, and then activate Sparto's effect to summon back the Clock Wyvern. Clock Wyvern's effect will be negated, which is okay. We're gonna use Cyanide Fusion using the Clock Wyvern plus the link to make a Cyber's Clock Dragon, and then Clock Dragon's effect, we're gonna mill 2, gain a whole bunch of attack, and we're just gonna attack for lethal. And also the 2 set cards are actually 2 copies of Manifestation, which he can't activate because he doesn't have any Altergeist in his graveyard. Okay, in our second game we were playing against Cyber Dragons, and we're once again going first. Yep, he is playing Cyber Style Evolution, and we did open Link Slayer, which is enough. But we also have a fusion, which we can also use with our skill to grab Clock Wyvern. So we will do that, and then do the entire combo again. The combo on turn 1 is pretty straightforward, it's the exact same thing every single time. We're gonna, again, use Clock Wyvern to make Proxy F, Fusion Summon using Monsters on Field to make Borreload Furious, and then this time we only have 1 set card, but it should be enough. Opponent is going to normal summon Cyber Dragon Core every single time. He's gonna grab a Emergency, and Emergency will activate to grab himself a Maxter, which he will use to pitch a Cyber Dragon. And then when he tries to revive the Cyber Dragon, it's the best opportunity to activate IDP at home to shuffle both the Cyber Dragon and banish one of his monsters away, which we will use using the Farfetch effect, which is like basically IDP. And we'll also use Furious Dragon's effect to pop his monsters, so he can't use them as a fusion material. We're gonna summon a Link Slayer because we don't have any monsters, and then we're gonna normal summon our Swap Cleric to draw ourselves a card. When we use it as a link material, we're gonna draw into an extender, which we can use to tribute with Talkback Lancer to bring back the Decode Talker, and he sees that, and he decides it's enough. He's gonna scoop it. Okay, it is time for Game 3, which is time for the expensive version of the deck. We are playing against Pendulum Change Basic? Yeah, usually if you see Pendulum Change Basic, it's most of the time it's going to be Metal Foes. So we're going to use our skill to grab ourselves a Clock Wyvern. We're going to save the Degrade Buster because it's a really good turn 1 option as well. Our opponent does have an Effect Failure, which kind of sucks. It stops our combo. But we do have Cyanide Fusion in our hand, so we can still at least end on a Diplexer Chimera and set 2 and hope for the best. Opponent is going to activate Metal Foes, and then Metal Foes effect, pop his scale, grab a fusion, and then set another scale, Pendulum Summon for a single card, and then use Volphane's effect, set another fusion, and he's gonna get back his scale back to the deck to add a Pendulum to the hand. We're gonna crack down in response to his fusion, hoping that it will whiff, but it doesn't because he has 2 monsters in his hand. So he's still gonna make a fusion, which we can still pop using our Tretch. We're gonna pop both his and our fusion because when our fusion is destroyed, we can add back 2 cards from our graveyard to our hand, 1 Cyanide Fusion plus a Cyber's monster for our next turn. He's still going to be able to draw a single card using Metal Foes Fusion, but as long as this is not a monster, he won't be able to activate the full Metal Foes Fusion that he set on the field, which I could sense that it's not because when I was playing there was no delay, so I could be free to do whatever combo I want. So I'm gonna do the entire Clock Wyvern combo again because it got effective Valor the first turn, so we can still use a skill that we haven't activated yet, so we will be able to still make a Borreload Furious on turn 3, and during the next turn he draws a card, and he doesn't have scales because that wasn't a monster, so he's going to scoop.